Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 51, Neo Domino City. Dimensional Exchange Tournament? A chorus of students echoed the words. A few days later, inside the principal's office, Hikaru and the other keyholders stared at each other, clearly unfamiliar with the term. Only Ches Princeton sighed in resignation, closed his eyes, crossed his arms, and put on the act of an expert. What is that? Cyrus asked excitedly, turning to Bastion. Even if you ask me. Bastion wiped the sweat from his brow. Even someone as well-read as him had no idea. Dimensional Exchange Tournament? Why bring that up now? Ches stroked his chin in confusion. That's something Kaiba Corp established, a yearly event for interdimensional dueling. Although they call it another dimension, many of Kaiba Corp's scientists prefer to refer to it as a parallel world. Huh? Ches, you know about this? Jaden asked in surprise. It's the Chaz. Ches snapped back, veins bulging in frustration. So what's the full story, the Chaz? Hikaru asked. There were still many things in this world Hikaru didn't understand, and since Chaz seemed to know, he was more than happy to ask. It was 3 or 4 years ago, Ches said, arms crossed and eyes closed in recollection. That was when dimensional exploration suffered its first setback. No matter what direction we explored, we couldn't find a new dimension. The whole project was at a standstill. Then, in a dimensional transport tunnel, someone accidentally crashed into a strange ship. Yeah, a ship, Ches nodded. Looking back, it was actually pretty cool looking. Anyway, because of that ship, my mentor discovered a new dimension, one later named World X. To be honest, calling it another dimension is a stretch. It's basically a parallel world. And there are humans there. Humans. Cyrus and Chumley, who had never been to another dimension, exclaimed in shock and confusion, isn't that normal? In fact, up to this point, that's the only world we've discovered with humans like us, Bastion added. Now that Ches mentioned it, I remember seeing the news back then. It was called the Discovery of the Century or a Third Kind Encounter. My mentor wasn't interested in that stuff, Ches shrugged. What caught his attention was, he heard that world had the Dark Magician. The Dark Magician. That's Mr. Yugi Muto's ace card. Jaden exclaimed, instantly fired up. Before entering Duel Academy, he had met Yugi Muto and was gifted a winged Kuriboh by him. He held both deep respect and gratitude toward Yugi, so hearing about the Dark Magician naturally excited him. Honestly, I found it strange too. Mr. Yugi Muto isn't dueling anymore, he's supposedly transitioned into card design, but it's not like he's gone. So why was my mentor so fixated on finding a Dark Magician user? Anyway, when he heard that the world had the Dark Magician, he immediately tried to visit. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let him. So, they reached a compromise. Kaiba Corp built a city in an empty dimension as a transfer station called Neo Domino City. Both sides can use it to access the parallel world. Then he shook his head, but my mentor's no longer interested. Apparently, the one he was looking for isn't there. That's right, Principal Shepard nodded, continuing. Even though Kaiba Corp no longer sends invitations to that world, Neo Domino City was still completed and now acts as a bridge between the two worlds. Every year, Neo Domino City hosts the Dimensional Exchange Tournament. Our world has seen both wins and losses, or rather, aside from when Kaiba himself entered, it's mostly losses. Principal Shepard shook his head. Just recently, the chairman proposed to Kaiba Corp that this year's tournament feature youth students to see how the new generation stacks up. We've mostly lost? Even Zane exclaimed. So, Principal, what's your point? Professor Growler asked. Hee hee, the principal chuckled, a glint of excitement in his usually calm eyes. Even a gentle elder like him got excited over something like this. Our academy has been chosen to represent this year's exchange tournament. Representing our world, we'll face young duelists from the other side. The whole trip will take about 20 days, a grand festival for new duelists. If you make a name for yourself in this event, it could really boost your future prospects as a pro duelist. Whoa! The students immediately rushed forward, excited. Principal! Pick me! Principal, I want in. Hey, Principal, you know I'm Kaiba's personal student, right? Hey, that's cheap, Chaz. Ho ho ho. The principal laughed, enjoying the suspense. After a moment, he finally said, all right, settle down. Kaiba Corp already decided, the top student from each grade will participate. Ah. That's not fair. I wanted to go too. Alexis Rhodes's brief spark of hope quickly faded. Wait, Hikaru interrupted the commotion, frowning. Principal, what about the Shadow Riders? Ah. The group suddenly remembered. That's exactly what I was getting to, Principal Shepard said with a serious expression. First, Hikaru, Zane, you two are confirmed participants. Professor Growler, you'll be the accompanying instructor. In other words, the 3 key holders. Those of you staying behind may face even tougher challenges. The principal looked at Jaden, Bastion, Chaz, and Alexis. The group swallowed nervously while Jaden was the first to step forward and loudly vow to protect the keys. Principal. Zane frowned. I should stay. No way. This is a world-level event. Jaden quickly objected. You're our school's ace, Kaiser. He patted his chest and said, we can't keep relying on you. Leave it to us. Yeah, Kaiser, don't underestimate us. Chaz laughed. Hikaru opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but stopped. In the original, one big reason Jaden ended up isolated later on was that he truly trusted his fellow students, never expecting the most reliable one, Zane, would be physically removed. Now, this world's Zane hadn't been taken out by some vampire's dirty trick, yet was once again heading off to a faraway tournament. Hikaru had wanted to ease Jaden's burden, but realizing he was leaving too, he dropped the idea. Still, Hikaru, Kaiser, even in Neo Domino City, you must stay on guard, the principal added. The Shadow Riders move in secret, appearing and disappearing at will. Even in another dimension, they may strike. Both nodded. That's true. Since someone like Vampire Fräulein could be a Shadow Rider, encountering other members in another dimension wouldn't be strange. Then it's settled. I'll notify the second-year top student later. Professor Growler, I'm leaving it to you. Don't worry, Principal. Growler pounded his chest with confidence. Hikaru and the others boarded a Kaiba Corp plane and arrived at the company's headquarters. There, they saw the massive Blue Eyes White Dragon statue, and beneath the facility's fixed interdimensional portal, they were transported to the city in the parallel dimension, Neo Domino City. Honestly, it didn't look all that different from the Domino City Hikaru remembered, just with some dimensional flair and multicolored decorations. And, the instant they arrived, Hikaru made a beeline for the card shop in the city. Boss, do you have any booster packs our world doesn't have? Bring them out, let me see. This is exactly what that scholarship was for. Chapter 52, Fusion is the noblest summoning method. Hikaru was half-slumped in a chair, boneless like a ragdoll, in the Duel Academy lounge. Professor Growler, just returning from a meeting with Zane and another student, spotted him immediately. Seeing the messy booster packs strewn across the table, the three instantly understood what Hikaru had been doing. Mamma mia, Hikaru, you skipped the Kaiba Corp meeting, saying you had a cold, just to open booster packs here? Growler wore a disappointed expression. You've been duped, Hikaru. Ha! Even Zane chuckled and shook his head. Hikaru, the professor's right. Just now, Kaiba Corp's rep warned us not to buy X-Dimension booster packs casually. Many stores there just bring over leftover packs from their own world. the odds of pulling a rare card are basically zero. And even if you do get a powerful rare, like one exclusive to the X dimension, you might not even be able to use it in our world. You've been scammed. Of course I knew that. Hikaru sighed, snapping back to his senses. It's not like I was expecting to pull an XYZ monster. I just didn't think I'd get anything but commons and rares. Am I really that unlucky? His goal from the start hadn't been to pull an XYZ monster. Even if he did, super polymerization would just remind him what fusion really meant. Though if he did pull one, maybe he could fuse it into an Eldlik? What he really wanted was to get cards their world didn't have, so he could use them as fusion material. In fact, he'd managed to pull 2 cards from the Ninja series, perfect for using as fusion material with super polymerization, well worth the money spent, maybe even beyond expectations. Huh? You already knew? Zane was a little surprised. That's right, our opponent uses something called the XYZ summon method. Then he furrowed his brows, visibly puzzled. Apparently, you just need monsters of the same level to XYZ summon. Kaiba Corp explained it clearly, but I still don't quite get it. Naturally. For someone like Zane, who grew up in the GX world, from age 5 or 6 till now, he'd never seen any extra deck summoning beyond fusion. Even with Kaiba Corp's explanations, it was probably too much to take in at once. As for the contact with the XYZ world, Hikaru wasn't surprised. In Yu-Gi-Oh! ArcV, the first world the fusion army invaded, was the XYZ world. Even though this wasn't ArcV, it had similarities. So connecting to the XYZ world didn't feel strange. The tournament starts in 5 days, 1 grade per day, first years, then second years, and so on. Besides our academy, there'll be Kaiba Corp duelists, 2 pros, and a dimensional summit. Your duels on day 10. 1 week from now. After the flight to Kaiba Corp, a full-body checkup and spirit aptitude test took another day. 1 more day to arrive in this world, and the rest of the time was basically tourism. Incidentally, Kaiba Corp confirmed Hikaru's dual spirit compatibility as 5 stars, no longer a 4-star low-rank spirit user but now a dignified mid-level dual spirit tamer. Hikaru nodded. Didn't expect it to be so soon. As days passed, Hikaru spotted people from other worlds here and there, but none were familiar. 1 week later, he was still worried about Jaden and the others, worried that the Shadow Games might be putting too much pressure on him. Yet, Hikaru couldn't afford to dwell on it as his duel was about to begin. The duel arena was on the top floor of a skyscraper, and according to the staff, it was modeled after the site of the legendary duel between Yugi Muto and Seto Kaiba. It sounded just like a Duelist Kingdom-style stage. Thump, thump, thump. Lights blazed from all directions onto the stage, making Hikaru squint. Countless cameras linked to the dimensional gates started broadcasting. Meanwhile, back at Duel Academy, Jaden, now with a few new scrapes and bandages, shouted with excitement. Oh! It's starting, it's finally starting! 10 days had passed, and new Shadow Riders had attacked the Academy, making him a little roughed up. For something of this global magnitude, the Academy had naturally cancelled classes so everyone could watch. An opportunity like this was once in a lifetime. Who knew if their academy would be picked again next year? Back in the arena, Hikaru saw his opponent step onto the stage, but he didn't recognize him at all. His hairstyle was pretty plain. Hello, I'm Amaji Hikaru, a first year at Duel Academy. Amaji, the other student blinked, then shook his head. Didn't expect to hear a familiar name in another world. I'm Haruto Kunigawa, a first-year student from Shinso Duel Academy. Pleased to meet you. After a brief greeting, Hikaru equipped his duel disc while Haruto pulled a monocle-like device from his pocket and put it on. A D-gazer. Duel. ×2. Hikaru, LP, 4000. Haruto, LP, 4000. My turn. Draw the coin toss to determine turn order had been handled by Professor Growler and a man named Mr. Shinsun from the X dimension. Hikaru was second, Zane had gone first. Worst possible coin toss. I normal summon Rescue Rabbit. Then activate its effect, banish it to special summon 2 level 4 or lower normal monsters of the same name from my deck. They'll be destroyed during the end phase. I banish Rescue Rabbit to special summon 2 Evil's Warm Heliotrope. Whoa! Hikaru's eyes lit up. Such a classic opener, it made him a little nostalgic. He reflected inwardly. Camula had been right. Even though his world's development had outpaced the original timeline due to dimensional exploration, it was still too primitive. Connecting to a truly future world like this was incredibly dangerous. Maybe this buffer dimension wasn't just Kaiba losing interest, it might have been created to hide and protect their world. Otherwise, they'd be facing a reverse invasion from the XYZ world. For Kaiba, maybe fusion versus XYZ didn't matter. But for regular duelists, the gap was enormous. Elsewhere, students were still confused. What was the point of that effect? Sure, he summoned 2 level 4 monsters with 1950 ATK each, but if they get destroyed at the end of the turn, wasn't it pointless? Don't blink. With 2 level 4 fiend monsters, I overlay them to perform an XYZ summon. Overlay. XYZ summon. Haruto stacked the 2 cards on his dual disc horizontally, then pulled a card from his extra deck and slammed it down. I XYZ summon. Come forth, Evil's Warm Bahamut. An ice dragon resurrected from the shadows. Black armor encased it as it let out a terrifying screech. Dark mist poured from its body like a vision of hell. Evil's Warm Bahamut, rank 4 DRK Dragon 2350 ATK. That, several Duel Academy students watching the stream were struck dumb. One card summoned a 2350 ATK monster, someone muttered in disbelief. XYZ. Bastion was so shocked that he almost fell out of his chair. So cool. No fusion, just straight special summon. Jaden jumped up, full of excitement. Dueling really is the best. He hadn't been this hyped since the Shadow Rider incident. Heh, how's that? This is the power of next-gen dueling. Haruto said confidently, setting 1 card face down. Compared to your classic style, this is progress. For years, our world has always been the victor. Before I came, Mr. Shinsun told me, even as newbies, our duelists will always be stronger. I'll definitely win. Progress, huh? Hikaru drew a card. He had to admit, XYZ monster endboards could tear through the ban list. But that was because the monsters were strong. Then, it's my turn. First, let me introduce myself properly. I'm a first year in RA Yellow at Duel Academy, Amaji Hikaru. I'm also in the Fusion Club. And now. His eyes narrowed. With a swift movement, he drew out a spell card at lightning speed. Oh. It's happening, it's happening. Jaden cheered from the stream. Here we go. First years from the Fusion Club jumped to their feet while Leo Akaba, observing from somewhere else, scowled. Ha! On the spectator bench, Growler wore a Pot of Greed level grin, while Zane just smiled and shook his head. And at that moment, across this dimension, and through the livestream, everyone joined Hikaru in shouting the same phrase. Fusion is the noblest summoning method. Chapter 53, Fusion's Blade vs XYZ's Shadow. Spell card, Ready Fusion. I pay 1000 life points to special summon a non-effect fusion monster of level 6 or lower from the extra deck. Hikaru opened his extra deck and pulled out a card to show his opponent. I special summon, Brachioratus. The dinosaur roared as winds howled, leaping straight out of the extra deck. Ha! Ready Fusion? Haruto had flinched a bit when he heard Hikaru's trademark line, but after seeing the card itself, he sighed in relief. He had been worried the opponent might pull out some insane card from a different dimension, like the Seto Kaiba duel videos he'd seen, where the guy drew 5 cards in one go like it was nothing. Absolutely terrifying. Compared to that, Ready Fusion was actually a card even their world used, and many duelists there used it to set up high-level XYZ materials. Monsters summoned by Ready Fusion can't attack and are destroyed during the end phase. What's the point of that? He shouted. It's not that simple. Hikaru revealed a second card from his hand. Spell card, Metamorphosis. What the heck is that? Haruto blinked. I tribute one monster on my field, and special summon one fusion monster with the same level from my extra deck. I tribute Brachioradus to special summon Great Mammoth of Goldfine. Great Mammoth of Goldfine, level 60 RK Zombie 2200 ATK. TCH. So now your monster can attack. But my monster still has higher ATK. Equip spell, Spirit Illusion. This combo. The students watching burst into smiles as they saw the 3-card setup. Jaden, who had seen it firsthand before, laughed loudly. Isn't that the exact combo Hikaru used during his Fusion Club test? Perfect way to test the waters against an X-Dimension duelist. Activating Spirit Illusion's effect. Once per turn, I can special summon a level 5 Doppelganger token that has the same type, attribute, and ATK as the equipped monster. I special summon Doppelganger token. Doppelganger token, level 5 DRK Zombie 2200 ATK. Battle. Great Mammoth of Goldfine, attack Evilswarm Bahamut. My monster's still stronger. Spirit Illusion's secondary effect activates when the equipped monster declares an attack. It lowers the target monster's ATK by the equipped monster's ATK. Evilswarm Bahamut, ATK, 2350-150. What? Boom! The golden elephant's twin tusks pierced the ice dragon. Haruto, LP, 4020-50. Doppelganger token, attack. Trap card, XYZ Reborn. I target one XYZ monster in my graveyard and special summon it. Then attach this card to it as material. The recently destroyed Dragon King returned instantly, now with a black star orbiting it. Attack withdrawal. I end the battle phase. Ah, so close. Jaden shook his head in the Academy lounge. It couldn't be helped, Bastion nodded. We don't know Haruto's exact level, but he's a first-year rep from a dual academy in his world. No way he'd be taken down so easily. If it were Yanagi, he'd already be in Game 2, Cyrus muttered. Then he suddenly shivered, sensing a hostile glare aimed at him from somewhere. Hikaru glanced at his hand and set 2 cards. I end my turn. Your move. Phew, that gave me a scare. Haruto wiped his brow, turned to his side's camera, struck a few poses, and waved toward his homeworld. Don't worry. That was just the warm-up. Now I'm getting serious. My turn. Drawley turned back and wiped his brow again. Phew, thought I was about to get OTK'd. Honestly, our world has fusion too, but you're the first one who ever shouted fusion is noblest in front of us. Let me show you how outdated fusion really is. XYZ summoning is way more powerful than you think. My turn, I activate Evilswarm Bahamut's effect. I detach one XYZ material and target your Great Mammoth of Goldfine. Then I discard one Evilswarm Heliotrope from my hand to take control of your monster. VRRRRRMMM. The golden elephant groaned, but bathed in dark energy from the black dragon, it succumbed and was dragged to Haruto's side. Next, I normal summon a second rescue rabbit. Another one? Hikaru raised an eyebrow. Don't tell me your deck is loaded with normal monsters? Of course. Haruto nodded confidently. I activate Rescue Rabbit's effect, banish it to special summon 2 level 4 normal monsters of the same name. I summon 2 Shining Abyss. Ah. I see. Hikaru looked thoughtful. What? Sorry, I just realized something, Hikaru said as he stared at his opponent. The constant pressure he'd felt began to ease a little. This opponent didn't truly understand XYZ summoning, he was just riding the strength of powerful XYZ monsters. Anyhow, that was normal. Even in Duel Academy's Fusion Club, many joined just because Fusion looked strong. Clearly, Haruto, being from the X dimension, had easy access to XYZ monsters and had grown overconfident, looking down on other summoning methods. Let me show you something. I activate my set card, Flame Swords Dance. Hikaru flipped over his face-down trap. This is a card I use often. When the opponent special summons, I can instantly special summon a fusion monster from the Flame Swordsman series from my extra deck. It's convenient and disruptive, so I run 3. Wait, what does that have to do with? Haruto blinked. Why was his opponent explaining his deck mid-duel? It's simple. I respect fusion. I revere it. I believe fusion is the noblest summoning method in the world, but I also fear XYZ. Summoning without polymerization is undeniably powerful. However, between XYZ and fusion, there exists an unbridgeable chasm. Flame Swords Dance effect, I special summon Flame Swordsman. Hikaru thrust his hand forward. Then Flame Swords Dance lets me set one of your Shining Abyss face down. Ah! Haruto's expression shifted. A face-down monster can't be used for XYZ material. Chapter 54, When the Strategist Overthinks, the Fusionist Strikes. Hikaru felt Haruto was playing too carelessly. Or rather, he was completely relying on the convenience and strength of XYZ monsters. Take Zane, for example. When he saw his opponent had face-down cards, his first instinct was to consider how to break through them. He'd wonder whether the opponent was baiting an attack. Sometimes, like when he tag-teamed with Hikaru, he'd even use limiter removal to eat the traps himself, making way for Hikaru to strike. That's why Zane would stop Cyrus immediately whenever he tried to use Power Bond recklessly. In the original, only after being mentally crushed by Aster Phoenix did Zane make such a rash play without preparation. Maybe that's not exactly high level, but at least it shows tactical readiness. Haruto, on the other hand, was different. Logically speaking, Bahamut's effect should have been saved for later, or rather, Bahamut shouldn't have been summoned in turn 1 at all. After all, he had another rescue rabbit and 2 level 4 monsters. Clearly, he had more options for XYZ summoning. So why lead with Bahamut? That's just poor judgment. The only explanation Hikaru could come up with was that Haruto saw Bahamut as his ace card, so, of course, it had to be shown off. Pure showmanship. He didn't even react to traps in a way any average GX-era duelist would, and it just goes to show how strong XYZ monsters were. TCH, whatever. My monster still has way more ATK than yours, battle. Haruto shook his head and called out, Great Mammoth of Goldfine, attack Flame Swordsman. Feel the power of your own monster. I activate the trap card, Salamandra with Chain. Hikaru shrugged. It equips to a fire monster, gives it 700 ATK, and I can also flip one monster on the field face down. I'll flip your Evilswarm Bahamut. Flame Swordsman, ATK, 1800-2500. The dragon curled up and lowered its stance while the mammoth barreled uncontrollably into the blazing warrior. Gah! Haruto, LP, 2050-1750. Simultaneously, with no monster left to equip, Spirit Illusion shattered instantly. Damn! Haruto's face paled. All the cards in his hand were normal monsters. And he'd already used his normal summon. Truth be told, while both Hikaru and Haruto had their own philosophies on summoning, normal summons were clearly the most limited resource. Under standard rules, every player gets only one normal summon per turn. Haruto had already used his to summon Rescue Rabbit. He took a deep breath and sighed. Great! My friends back home are totally going to roast me for this. During the end phase, one of his special summon monsters would be destroyed, and the other one had 1800 DF, but it wouldn't hold long. Bahamut only had 1350 DEF. He ended his turn reluctantly, hoping for a miracle draw next turn. Maybe Hikaru wouldn't have another monster. However, when Hikaru revealed a Gem Knight, all that hope vanished. Fusion summon, huh? As his life points hit 0, Haruto gave a rueful smile. Looks like I've still got a lot to learn. At least he could take the loss in stride. After all, dueling always had wins and losses. In his world, a loss didn't mean everything was over. It was more about the performance. Still, it stung to have performed so poorly in what was quite literally a world-class duel. He worried whether this would affect Mr. Shinson's new show's ratings. What he didn't know was that many duelists in his world were cheering for Hikaru. Enough with the endless XYZ this, XYZ that. This guy's got real dueling skills. Wahoo! We won! Back at Duel Academy, that was the true celebration. Jaden even jumped up onto the table, hurting his injured arm in the process. That was awesome, Hikaru. This duel had been the Academy's representation in a global event. Even if it was just friendly competition with no prizes, both students and teachers knew, if they performed well, Kaiba Corp would surely invest more in them, better cards, better facilities. Hikaru's a beast. Fusion. Look. That's our Fusion Club ace, our representative. He's the pride of the Academy. Yeah. The Academy's pride. Ha ha ha. For once, the lounge was filled with nothing but cheers, no inter-dorm rivalries, no insults. Even some of the older Fusion Club students were genuinely moved. The Fusion Club was formed because its students feared or misunderstood other summoning methods. But when they saw Hikaru beat an opponent from another world, they couldn't help but feel excited. Even more surprising, Professor Leo Akaba, who had been watching the match, was clapping. He gently applauded, a rare smile playing on his lips, leaving the obelisk blue third years who followed him stunned. Wasn't Professor Akaba known for disliking Amaji Hikaru? But in truth, that wasn't what Leo Akaba was pleased about. He knew better than anyone the average strength of duelists from the XYZ dimension and doubted many duelists around Hikaru's age could actually beat him. Moreover, he hadn't pushed for this exchange tournament out of loyalty to that old geezer, it had always been for his own goals. Top-tier duelists weren't that different in strength, just a notch below the terrifying Seto Kaiba. Nonetheless, until now, Akaba didn't know what level the younger generation of XYZ world was at. Now it was clear, XYZ summoning monsters might be powerful and easy to use, but to this world, they weren't invincible. In fact, because that world's duelists tended to chase brute force wins, always going for more ATK and more power, their plays came off as linear. Duelists here weren't much different, but with the legacy of Yugi Muto behind them, there was at least some awareness of traps and counters. If the XYZ students had crushed Hikaru, that would have been ideal, it would lower his popularity. But if they lost, like now? Even better. It meant the XYZ world was very ripe for invasion. Perfect for his plans. Leo Akaba's smile grew sly as he laced his fingers together. Getting that old geezer to organize this exchange tournament was the right move. He'd gained valuable intel. Seeing the level of the XYZ students, this was a double victory. Growler, you'd never guess this was my idea, huh? Now, only one step remained. Take out Growler, Amaji Hikaru, and Zane Truesdale, those three, mentor and students. At the very least, keep them from returning too soon. After the broadcast ended, he returned to his office and contacted his subordinate, a bizarre-looking scientist. It's time. Let him loose. Yes, sir. The scientist saluted, then let out a creepy giggle. Beside him stood a sealed chamber, containing a monstrous, black-misted, twisted abomination. He slammed buttons and pulled every lever he could find, releasing the creature. Leo Akaba burst into laughter. Duel Academy might be your turf, but in the other world? It's my domain. Elsewhere. In his dorm room, Hikaru checked his deck, as usual. Suddenly, his hand trembled as he touched one card. The card, once just a rough sketch, had become clearer, and its purple glow had grown stronger. El Shaddai Winda. She's clearer now. After the duel against Darkness, Winda's completion rate had leapt dramatically, almost a full card now. And today, she looked almost like her true self. Could it be that dueling against DT series cards boosted her progress? Did it not have to be shadow-aligned powers? No need to rush. Gotta wait full 20 days. So he'd duel Haruto every single day. Chapter 55, Parasitic Fusion Bug. 2 days later, the duels between Duel Academy and Shinsun Academy came to an end. Surprisingly, Duel Academy had won every single match. Yes, even though all the duelists from Shinsun Academy were people Hikaru didn't recognize at all, with totally forgettable hair and zero presence from either Zexal or ArcV, they were still grade leaders with modern monsters. And yet, they didn't win a single round. Not counting Zane and Hikaru, even the second-year upperclassman beat his opponent. The second year copied Hikaru's entire strategy, but packed his deck with cards like Book of Moon, and let the Shinsun sophomore thoroughly experience the pain. Another loss, huh? Haruto Kunigawa had just finished another duel with Hikaru that day, and lost again. Thinking back on how even the upperclassmen lost, he sighed. Looks like our skills really do lag behind, huh? He scratched his head. Since that day, Hikaru had challenged him to a duel every day, and Haruto never refused. On one hand, he was used to losing at the academy and wasn't undefeated or anything. On the other hand, in his world, dueling was more entertainment than a practical application. Even though their dueling had spawned absurdly advanced tech, they hadn't applied it to much else. Also, dueling Hikaru didn't cause the same physical fatigue or pain as dueling a spirit. With nothing else to do in Neo Domino City, dueling Hikaru was fun and even educational. And, of course, he was down. After 3 days of duels, he could clearly feel himself getting smarter, and every time he returned home, he was sure he'd perform way better. Only to lose again the next day. Just as the two were wrapping up their duel in Neo Domino City's arena, Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare Knight suddenly jumped out and flanked Hikaru, startling Haruto. My liege, something's up. My liege, the air's gone bad. Wah! What the heck are those? Haruto nearly jumped out of his skin. Haruto, over here. Before Hikaru could finish, a massive shadow leapt from the darkness. Reacting instantly, Hikaru jumped high, his body flashing with white armor, and kicked the shadow in midair. Whoa! Haruto's jaw dropped. He felt like he was in a movie. What was that just now? He asked, thrilled. That was awesome. Hikaru wasn't as amused. He grabbed Haruto, scanned him quickly, and then suddenly whitened his eyes. With a slash like a razor, he cut Haruto's arm using the card on his necklace. Ow! Haruto felt a sharp sting on his arm. When he looked again, he saw a disgusting worm on the ground that hadn't been there before. Captain! Here! A massive crystal monster blocked their front, emitting a bright light. Flame and Dark Flare both charged the shadows, swinging their blades. A swarm of creepy worms burst out, slashed and burned by the sword spirits. Their faces twisted in disgust, clearly nauseated. Then came a loud, ominous thump, thump, and a towering figure emerged from the darkness. It was covered in black fur, clad in purple armor, with blood-red eyes and countless tiny worms wriggling all over its body. Dark mist seeped off of it, a creature of unmistakable malice. What's going on? Who is that? Haruto still hadn't caught up. I am the proud gladiator beast, come to claim your life. The bear growled in human speech. Is that gladiator beast Undul? Flame Swordsman frowned. How did he end up like this? In the sacred warrior domain, he'd once met Undul's spirit. Though a gladiator beast, Chaos Soldier Sama had no qualms about letting him train together. This might not be the same spirit, but it still hurt to see. They'd once been comrades, after all. Looks like he's been mind-controlled, Hikaru muttered, eyeing the disgusting parasites. He lowered his voice. That damned bald freak must be itching to retire early. Hikaru didn't know that Leo Akiba was Principal Kajimura's right-hand man, but he did recognize those cursed parasites. Half of Hikaru's hatred for ArcV came from these fusion parasites. They could brainwash hosts, overwrite their minds, and turn them into obedient slaves. His complete lack of goodwill toward Leo Akiba stemmed from this very reason. In the original, that Chrome Dome lunatic, under the guise of being a doting father, used this on his own daughter. How could that even be called a normal person? That's a full-blown lunatic. In this world, Hikaru hadn't heard of Selena and was still wondering what Akiba was plotting. Since he had no daughter here, surely he wouldn't need the tech? But now he was using it, on spirits. And not only that, The black mist rising from Undul was just like what Hikaru had seen on Crystal Beast Ruby Carbuncle before. That bald bastard was pulling all the tricks. This had to be part of the shadow system, right? Come, human. Duel. Undul growled after a parasite jabbed into him. Heh, fine by me. Hikaru snapped his arm forward, dual disc activating. Gladiator beasts, huh? I like those. A fusion deck that didn't need polymerization gladiator beasts. He'd been wanting to try out this higher level fusion path. Flame, dark flare, guard the perimeter. Don't let a single worm through. Yes, sir. Understood. Duel. ×2. Hikaru, LP, 4000. Gladiator Beast Undul, 4000. I'll go first. Undul drew a card and looked at his hand. Defense position summon Gladiator Beast Hoplomys. A massive, armored rhino warrior appeared in defense. Gladiator Beast Hoplomys, level 4 Earthrock 2100 def. Set 2 cards. End turn. What a plain turn, Haruto said, about to poke the swordsman's blades before redirecting his focus. After dueling Hikaru a few times, he knew how strong the guy was. That opening didn't look too solid. My turn. Hikaru glanced at his hand. Spell card, Instant Fusion. I pay 1000 LP to special summon 1000 Ice Restrict. Hikaru, LP, 4000 3000. The eerie-eyed god returned after a long time. Trap Gladiator Beast Charge. Activate when you control face-up Gladiator Beasts. Destroy cards up to the number of different names. Target, 1000 Eyes Restrict. Undul calmly raised his bare paw and pointed. Destroy it. Rawr arc. The rhino's eyes turned red as it charged forward, obliterating the fusion monster in a brutal slam. Crap. Haruto finally realized. This wasn't him dueling Hikaru. Of course, there'd be traps. A monster summoned with 1000 LP is gone in a flash. Hikaru, be careful. That thing gives me bad vibes. Hikaru understood that far better, but instead of talking, he nodded and continued. Then I activate Thunder Dragon's effect in my hand and discard to add up to 2 Thunder Dragons from my deck to hand. I add the second one to hand, then discard it to add the third. Since getting Gem Knights, Hikaru had added Thunder Dragons to his deck. After his duel with Vampire Fräulein, he'd received new cards, but hadn't used them until now. What's the point of that? Haruto asked curiously. Why not just grab 2 at once? You threw one away instead. There's a reason, Haruto. I activate the fusion spell, Thunder Dragon Fusion. Hikaru shouted, slamming a card down. It's a Thunder-type exclusive fusion spell. I return Thunder monsters from the field, graveyard, or banished zone to the deck to fusion summon 1 Thunder Fusion monster. Haruto's jaw dropped. You can fusion summon by returning cards to the deck. That's right, deck recovery fusion. Behold my new power. Hikaru clapped his hands. I fusion summon. Twin-headed Thunder Dragon. Twin-headed Thunder Dragon, level 7 Light Thunder 2800 ATK. Now that was a good attack stat. Chapter 56, Ever-Changing. Twin-headed Thunder Dragon? What's going on? That's a card Hikaru's never used before. In an underground research lab, a duel under a blood-red filter played out on the main monitor. Damn it, that data wasn't uploaded into that one-eyed bear's brain. Hikaru's deck is always changing, no one knows what fusion monster he'll pull out next. That's not on you. A researcher stepped forward, coughed, and calmed the room. Besides, it's just a plain fusion monster without effects. What's there to fear? Undul is the pinnacle of our spirit enhancement program. No normal person could possibly defeat it. With the director's words, the staff breathed a little easier. While they watched nervously, a girl with a yellow bandana and a long purple ponytail peeked into the room, curiously eyeing the screen. Dueling, huh? She leaned against the doorframe, watching intently. Battle. Twin-headed Thunder Dragon, attack. Trap card, Messenger of Peace. Undul flipped a set card without hesitation. Too naive, human. Messenger of Peace makes me take no battle damage this turn, and my monsters can't be destroyed by battle. Oh, Hikaru shrugged. Main phase 2. Now, Hoplomous effect activates. The Rhino let out a roar and shimmered. At the end of a battle phase in which it battled, return it to the deck to special summon one Gladiator Beast from the deck, except Hoplomous. I special summon Gladiator Beast Bestiari. Scree. A green armored bird of prey swooped down from the sky. Gladiator Beast Bestiari, level 4 WAND Winged Beast 1500 ATK. Nice. That means next turn, he can fusion summon Gizzerus. Heh, let that ignorant Hikaru learn what true fusion really is. Hikaru? The purple-haired girl tilted her head. So, was the duelist on the left Amaki Hikaru? He replaced a 2100 def monster with a 1500 ATK one? Hikaru, I think there's a trap coming. After days of systemic beatings, training, Haruto had picked up a thing or two, so seeing Bestiari, he got a bad feeling. Sharp as ever, Haruto. Hikaru nodded. You're right. From what I know, Gladiator Beast Gizzerus is a fusion monster that doesn't need a polymerization spell. As long as you have Bestiari and one other Gladiator Beast on the field, you can return them to the deck to fusion summon it from the extra deck. When it's special summoned, it can destroy up to 2 cards on the field. It's truly powerful. The research room fell into dead silence, thick and still as death. How does he know about Gladiator Beasts? Someone cried out. That's impossible. Only duelists from the professor's barracks have access to those cards. They're nothing like the useless ancient gear stuff on the surface. These are powerful cards reserved for barracks trainees. How does he know? The Gladiator Beast archetype wasn't publicly released, and Leo Akiba had discovered it on his own. It was strictly an internal weapon of the fusion army. Everyone, calm down. Even if he knows, so what? The director snapped. He's still going to die. He glared at the screen, eyes locked on Hikaru. Hikaru, how'd you know what it does? Haruto said. I'm a duelist pursuing the pinnacle of fusion. There's no fusion I don't know. Hikaru chuckled and spread his hands, brimming with confidence. Pinnacle of fusion? The purple-haired girl nodded slightly. Impressive. My turn continues. Main phase 2, I normal summon Gem Knight Amber. Fusion materials Gem Knight and Thunder type. I activate the spell, Fusion Substitute. Hikaru revealed a new card. Fusion Substitute? Another unfamiliar name. It's treated as polymerization by effect. So, between it and actual polymerization, you can only run 3 copies total in a deck. But that's not important. Fusion Substitute only lets you fuse using monsters on the field. I fuse Gem Knight Amber and Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. Ready, Captain. I fusion summon Gem Knight Prism Aura. The dazzling, radiant knight returned. Gem Knight Prism Aura, level 7 Earth Thunder 2450 ATK. Using a fusion monster as fusion material. Haruto gulped. He figured the day he could XYZ summon using XYZ monsters as materials would be the day he caught up to Hikaru's summoning mastery. Next, I activate Fusion Substitute's Graveyard effect. Banish it to target a fusion monster in my graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and draw a card. Hikaru returned Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon and drew 1 card. Now, Prismora's effect. I send a Gem Knight fusion from my hand to the graveyard to target 1 face-up card on the field, destroy it. Targeting Bestiari, of course. Gore. Undul growled. I'm not done. I activate Thunder Dragon's effect in my hand, discard to add 2 copies from the deck to hand. Whoa! One researcher gasped. He's come full circle, back to his original setup. And he swapped in a different fusion monster. So strong. Ahem. The director coughed. The awestruck researchers quickly fell silent. I set one card. Turn end. Hikaru spread his arms to finish. The director took a deep breath. Increase the dosage, raise the voltage, amplify the shadow influence, failure is not an option. This is a direct order from the professor. Yes, sir. A direct order from the professor? The purple-haired girl was even more intrigued. She tiptoed inside the lab, sat cross-legged in a chair, and stared intently at the screen. Who was this guy that even the professor was targeting personally? She had to see. Aergurgurg. Undul's body sparked with electricity. The black mist and parasitic worms writhed wildly. After a shriek of pain, his crimson eyes gleamed with a terrifying light. AAAHHHH. I have to win, he howled. Hikaru's face darkened. Disgusting. He placed a hand on the card at his chest, narrowing his eyes. Chapter 57, The Deserved End for the Defeated. ZZZZT. Electricity crackled around Undul's body as he drew a card. Amaji Hikaru observed him closely. In the world of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the concept of training draws had always existed, like the Duel Academy in GX that trained students to draw the exact cards they needed, or Yuma and Zexal using Shining Draw, believing that true duelists draw by fate. From the current signs, black mist spreading, parasites twitching, energy surging, it was clear all of it aimed to enhance Undul's spirit power. He could barely speak before, now, he couldn't even manage words. He drew his card and immediately normal summoned a green-skinned monster that looked like a big lizard wielding a net and fork. Gladiator Beast Rishiari, Level 3 Waterfish 1200 ATK. Next, Undul activated an equip spell. A shield decorated with skulls materialized, replacing Rishiari's fork as its weapon. Rhea. It charged forward under Undul's direction. But Prismora countered with a swift slash, easily knocking Rishiari back. The shield it held shattered in the process. Gladiator Beast Undul, LP, 2750. Looks like that shield prevented it from being destroyed in battle, Haruto said. Hikaru nodded. As the battle ended, Rishiari dropped its net and fled. Then, a minotaur clad in armor flew out from the deck. Gladiator Beast Darius. When Darius is special summoned by a Gladiator Beast effect, it can revive a Gladiator Beast from the graveyard with its effect negated, Hikaru said, unfazed. Darius appeared and swung its chain whip like a lasso, dragging a monster up from the grave. Raarg! Undul raised his claws, and the two monsters twisted and merged, returning to the deck. In their place stood a majestic, noble bird beast. Gladiator Beast Jizarus, Level 6 DARK Winged Beast 2400 ATK. Hikaru's eyes lit up. Nice. Jizarus's full hologram form was pretty slick. Gra! Undul roared as Jizarus flapped its wings, destroying Hikaru's monster and set card in a burst of explosive energy. The smoke blanketed the field like a powerful detonation. Beautiful. Nice job, Undul. In the lab, the researchers erupted in excitement as their creation finally blew away Hikaru's cards, even if it came at the cost of self-harm. This is perfect. Hikaru only has 2 Thunder Dragons left in his hand. Even if he draws a fusion card, he can only make twin-headed Thunder Dragon, it's no threat. Ha ha ha. This is the power of science. Science, really? Off to the side, the purple-haired girl tilted her head. Wasn't that just a lucky draw with a shield? Even I could do that. Still. If Hikaru lost to that, then maybe he wasn't. Wait. The entire lab fell silent as if a hand had closed around their throats, choking the breath from their lungs. As the dust cleared, Prismora was gone, but in its place stood a mightier, more magnificent dragon. That sleek mechanical finish, that flowing armor plating, that fierce roar. Cyber Twin Dragon, Level 8 Light Machine 2800 ATK. See Cyber Twin Dragon. Impossible. On screen, Hikaru revealed a card from his graveyard. Trap card, Waking the Dragon. He showed it. When a set card is sent from the field to the graveyard or banished by the opponent's effect, I can special summon a monster from my deck or extra deck. Didn't think I'd ever get to use this. Hikaru shrugged. This card wasn't in his original build. Maybe all the tier 3 fusions made it viable, and Super Poly must have pulled it in. Sadly, his extra deck only had fusion monsters, so that's all Super Poly gave him. No way, he knew Undul would destroy his cards. He planned this. The battle phase is over, what do we do? Incredible. The purple-haired girl jumped on her seat, awestruck. That type of trap almost never triggers. 9 out of 10 times, it's dead weight. But Hikaru had set it up perfectly. My turn, draw. Hikaru didn't even glance at the card. He pointed. Battle, Cyber Twin Dragon, crush my enemies. Cyber Twin can attack twice per battle phase. After obliterating Gizaris, its second head turned toward Undul, charging up a wild energy blast. The parasites and mechanical implants on Undul were vaporized instantly. The black mist vanished as well. Gladiator Beast Undul, LP, 2750. No way. Undul lost that easily? That's impossible. He used nothing but cards we've never seen before. None of it matches the data, this needs a redo. Damn it. He normally uses Flame Swordsman. The researchers panic like ants on a frying pan. We must stop Hikaru. That was a direct order from the professor. But he already won. Doesn't matter, charge. The director went nuts, slamming buttons, while the purple-haired girl frowned at the chaos. Meanwhile, Hikaru approached the fallen Undul. Suddenly, a disgusting worm leapt at him. His eyes widened, Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare, already poised, launched forward and shredded the parasite in midair. Bastards! You lost the shadow duel, and you still try dirty tricks? Abruptly, Captain Crystal appeared before Hikaru, radiating light like the sun, suppressing the parasites and mist on Undul. In a shadow duel, the victor has full rights over the loser. Seeing their opponent resist even after defeat, Crystal couldn't hold back, plus, he was ready to strike. Captain. Sir? He looked to Hikaru, puzzled as to why he was stopped. Crystal was ready to erase whoever controlled Undul. Hikaru's expression was dark. Losing was one thing, but trying to backstab him afterward? Infuriating. What made it worse was, he'd seen this coming. From the moment he saw the parasite, from the moment the duel started, he knew it might end this way. And now it had. Even if they didn't deserve it, he'd make his move. You parasites are filthier than sewer scum. Hikaru's voice was cold. He looked at Undul, at the worms twitching on him, staring as though they were watching the lab itself. You dare use fusion alongside me? I'll show you what a shadow duel really is. What fusion really is. What true victory means. Now, receive the ending you losers deserve. He raised a card high, shouting, Unleash ultimate power. As his cry rang out, Crystal, Flame, and Dark Flare felt an immense energy surge within them. In Hikaru's deck, Alchemist, Blade Skater, and Flame Swordsman cards, card after card, began to glow. In the sky, a massive thundercloud formed, flashing with lightning. The parasites and black mist were ripped from Undul's body, sucked skyward like reverse rainfall turned into fuel. Ag. Elsewhere, in a subdimensional lab, researchers watching the feed noticed lights flickering. Then, explosions, more and more of them. The purple-haired girl, there to spectate, took off running. The director noticed her fleeing and screamed, Miss Selena! Stop, just as columns collapsed and sealed spirits were released. They shattered their containers and control systems, escaping, eyes glowing red. It was clear, the control systems had failed. Oh no! This is bad. This is really bad. As the furious spirits advanced on him, the director's heart froze in terror. Chapter 58, Evolutionary Omen? Seriously, this is getting out of hand. Hikaru fanned away the heat from his hand and carefully tucked the card back into his deck. The spirits exchanged glances in silence. None of them said a word. Though they still had no idea what that mysterious card truly was, they had seen Hikaru use it before, during his experiments with alchemy. Back then, they could feel the terrifying power hidden within the card, but they had assumed it was just some dark magic Hikaru was too cautious to use, fearing it might hurt him or his friends. Now, they realized they had been far too conservative in their thinking. What the hell is that card? Master, Myrmidon Alchemist was the first to speak calmly. After Hikaru returned the card, he floated beside him and said, I used to think it was some sort of catalyst. Now I see I vastly underestimated it. But that also means it's even harder to control. Myrmidon pointed with his staff at the unconscious form of gladiator Beast Undul. Beside it lay several scattered cards. This time, in the shadow game, because the opponent violated the sacred ritual of dueling, all the backlash was shouldered by them. Next time, you mustn't use that card so lightly. Conservatively speaking, your dual spirit compatibility would need to reach 10 stars before you can use it freely. Hikaru nodded lightly. Yeah, I understand. Myrmidon was analyzing it from a professional perspective. Hikaru, on the other hand, based his judgment on known intel. Today's events felt more exciting than my past 10 years combined. Haruto sighed beside him. Hikaru looked back and smiled, then make sure you remember it well, Haruto. This world's never been all that peaceful. Now I finally understand why our world's leaders have always been wary of dimensional exchange. Even a tournament like this is kept shallow, never allowed to go too deep. Haruto shook his head, clearly shaken. If we had to live like this every day, people back home would go insane. Dueling with dual monster spirits? Losing means death? Win if you don't want to die? Then, keep controlling monsters to attack? What kind of messed up logic is that? It's terrifying. Your world might not be all that safe either. If you ever run into trouble, be careful. Hikaru didn't know exactly what kind of world Haruto came from. But since his own was a hybrid of GX and ArcV, then Haruto's might be something similar. Which means the existence of things like numbers isn't out of the question. And that would be very unsafe. Haruto fell into thoughtful silence and nodded solemnly. Once everything was over, Gladiator Beast Undul gradually woke up. Its first reaction was a roar, then a massive backward leap. It crouched with claws digging into the ground, eyes warily scanning everything around it. Once it saw Hikaru and the spirits, it relaxed a little, then, rather shamefully, started to weep, whimpering softly. It had suffered. Hikaru took a moment to gather the cards scattered around it. Ha! Hikaru tilted his head at the text and image on one of them. Where's the fusion parasite? Why does it look different? Well, whatever. He shrugged, not too bothered. To be honest, in this era, Fusion Parasite wasn't actually a bad card. It had the effect of substituting for one named fusion material listed on a fusion monster, basically like King of the Swamp. A pretty solid effect. At least in this world, it was surprisingly strong. But still, cards like this, aside from duelists who enjoyed chaos, weren't exactly popular. They say real duelists don't care about appearances as long as a card is strong, but even then, some cards are just too off-putting, like Fusion Parasite or, say, Ice Barriers. Even if the parasite had transformed into a bunch of other monsters, that wasn't bad. He'd gained another Thunder Dragon fusion, even picked up a Vanilla Gem Knight. And many of the monsters were actually pretty valuable in the GX world. But what caught his attention most was the fusion monster Super Alloy Beast Raptinus. Whoa! Hikaru's eyes sparkled at the sight of the card. As long as this card's on the field, all Gemini monsters are treated as having been normal summoned again. A card that could enable infinite loops. A true classic. And better yet, its fusion materials were broad, just 2 Gemini monsters. And he had those, like Ancient Gear Knight. As a level A fusion monster, it was perfect for metamorphosis to bring out Master of Chaos. Or even Cyber Twin Dragon, it could bring that out directly. Relying on someone else to destroy Waking the Dragon every time was unrealistic. Having his own way to bring it out was clearly better. For an extra deck card, this thing had serious value. "These guys, I think they're my companions," Gladiator Beast Undul timidly spoke up, scratching the back of his head as he stared at the cards. "They were captured with me." "Oh?" Hikaru asked curiously what had happened. He learned that someone had been capturing spirits for experiments. Undul's memory was fuzzy, but he vaguely recalled these cards. That makes sense now. No wonder things felt so easy this time. So your companions must have contributed their strength too. Hikaru understood. Looks like when he used Super Poly, the other spirits, wherever they were, lent their power. That power was absorbed, converted, and fused into these cards. So that's why Fusion Parasite transformed. But more importantly, Hikaru reached into his pocket. Yes. Winda was down to just a quarter. Maybe one more shadow game, or 10 more duels with Haruto, and she'd be complete. Can I come with you? Undul rubbed his paws nervously. I'm really grateful, but I have nothing to repay you with. Also, if I ever get the chance. I want revenge, he said quietly, head bowed. Of course. Hikaru lit up. Of course you can. Awesome. Now the Gladiator Beast deck had a proper direction too. Win-win. Just as Hikaru was cleaning up to return to the dorms, Flame Swordsman suddenly asked Dark Flare Knight beside him, "Hey, Dark Flare, why does your armor look like it's glowing?" Now that you mention it, your sword's gotten wider. They were close friends and constant sparring partners. If something was off, they'd notice immediately. Hikaru rushed over. It was true. Flame Swordsman's blade looked a bit broader, and Dark Flare Knight's armor shimmered with a faint golden hue. Could it be? Hikaru quickly pulled out his deck and started inspecting the cards. As expected, the illustrations on both cards had very subtle changes. Could super polymerization actually trigger evolution? Though the changes were incredibly subtle, if you didn't squint, you'd barely notice, it was undeniable. Hikaru suddenly felt like laughing. But seeing Undul still in low spirits beside him, he held it in. No, he had to return to the academy and file a request for a new fusion club immediately. Chapter 59, Recruiting Allies. Over the course of 5 or 6 days, Hikaru and the others, accompanied by Kaiba Corp staff, returned to the real world. Seto Kaiba himself seemed quite satisfied with the exchange, generously announcing increased investment in Duel Academy and even awarding bonuses to everyone who had come along. Among the recipients, Hikaru and the other chosen students received the most, as they were the ones responsible for dueling. Just roughly estimating, even if Hikaru repeated a grade at Duel Academy for 7 or 8 years and received scholarships every year, he probably wouldn't earn this much. Truly worthy of being Kaiba. So magnanimous. Although Hikaru had never met this world's Kaiba before, his impression of Seto Kaiba had skyrocketed. With this money, he could probably clear out an entire old card shop in Neo Domino City. But there was no longer any need for that. After returning to the academy, Hikaru first went to check in with Jaden and the others to ask about the current situation, and he ended up seeing Bastion stupidly drinking hot sauce. What's going on? Hikaru stood outside the Slifer Red cafeteria, asking with confusion. Alexis looked a bit helpless, holding her head and shaking it. It's my brother's fault. Huh? Bastion got rejected in love, probably, Cyrus said cautiously from the side. So, what exactly happened, Jaden? Chat? Bastion had a duel with one of the Shadow Riders, but after he lost, he's been like this ever since. Could it have been that Amazonas warrior, Tanya? Hikaru asked about their recent situation out of curiosity and soon discovered that the events in the real world were a little different from what he remembered. During this period, Jaden and the others had encountered 3 Shadow Riders, although there were actually quite a few people involved. First came the Dark Scorpion burglars, who infiltrated the academy disguised as teachers and staff. They tried to steal the keys, but when they discovered that 3 of the keys were not at the academy and had gone to another dimension, they couldn't complete their mission and were discovered by Detective Chaz. With no other choice, they dropped the Keys mission and ran. While pursuing them, Jaden and the group encountered the real Shadow Rider who had been hiding, Rogue of Endymion. Off guard for a moment, Chaz lost to the Rogue, and Jaden stepped up to defeat him. Endymion? As in the spellcaster deck? Ah, yeah, those spell card tactics were pretty interesting. Jaden tilted his head in recollection. If Chaz hadn't dueled him first and revealed his ace, I would have had a tough time winning. So the Shadow Riders really had leveled up? And Chaz was playing the classic supporting male lead sacrifices himself plotline. Then what happened? Alexis defeated a shadow duelist named Titan? He was also a Shadow Rider, I think? Titan? What kind of deck did he use? Fiend deck. Dice rolls, Jaden said with a laugh. So, it's the same Titan from the original Shadow Riders? That's pretty weak. So the one that showed up now is the fifth Shadow Rider, right? Yeah. Jaden nodded. Chaz sighed. Who would have thought Bastion would end up like this after just one loss? Even if it was to a shadow duelist, he shouldn't be this down. He raised his hand and explained to Hikaru what had happened these past few days. It happened the day before yesterday. Suddenly, a few male students went missing at the school. Thanks to Chaz's investigation, even though he lost to the Rogue of Endymion, he was the first to notice the disappearances and immediately began investigating, counting the number of students in each class. That impressive? Hikaru looked at Chaz in surprise. Ha! Chaz gave a casual snort. Chaz really is smart, Cyrus added. When the Dark Scorpion burglars tried to steal the keys, he deduced their identities just from a few clues. It's a shame that he got ambushed by the Rogue of Endymion. If he hadn't been unwell, he might not have lost at all. A loss is a loss, don't make excuses. Chaz continued speaking to Hikaru. Through his investigation, he discovered that a Colosseum had suddenly appeared in the southern part of Duel Academy Island. But he no longer had a key, so he quickly gathered the others. Guarding the Colosseum was a brawny woman. After dueling with her, Bastion lost unexpectedly, and this is what happened. His face was red, absent-minded. Drinking hot sauce, pouring tomato juice. Seriously, this is the Slifer Red cafeteria. Bastion from RA Yellow showing up here was already absurd. So what's that got to do with your brother? Hikaru decided to focus on the important part first, not asking when Atticus had recovered. That idiot. The veins on Alexis's forehead popped when Atticus was mentioned. He said Bastion must be in love, so he told Bastion to confess and even trick me out of my key. When she hadn't found her brother, she worried for his safety. But after he returned and regained consciousness, she just wanted to punch him. Don't tell me he lost again? Alexis sighed. If only. That lady duelist completely ignored Bastion, thinking his behavior was immature and lowly. That made Bastion even more spaced out. Geez, that stupid Bastion. Hikaru shook his head. If he loses his rank as second in the year over this, I'd be happy, but this is just embarrassing. Ah. Jaden nodded vigorously. That's why I decided, I'm gonna duel that person today. He looked fired up. How about it, Hikaru? You too. I have something else to do. Question mark. Hikaru, do you have something important going on? Alexis asked, puzzled. You just got back from Kybercorp. Are you feeling unwell? Want to ask the school nurse? No. I've just got some personal matters these days. Hikaru waved his hand, then pointed to his clothes. I'm quitting the Fusion Club. What? Ha? Crash. Bastion, who had been completely out of it, fell off the bench in shock, snapping back to reality. He jumped up and ran to the door, shouting loudly, the sky is falling. The world is ending. I thought you weren't even listening to me. What the heck, Hikaru, are you crazy? Even Chaz, who had been acting cool with arms crossed, couldn't keep it up and looked at Hikaru in disbelief. Don't tell me, Hikaru got brainwashed in the other dimension. Cyrus clasped his hands together and started praying. I must be dreaming, I must be dreaming. Ah, you guys misunderstood. Hikaru shook his head. Actually, I just feel like the current fusion club isn't very fused. So I want to form a new one. Let's call it the Neo Fusion Club, for now. I wanted to ask if you guys were interested. Like you, Jaden? Oh. Neo Fusion Club? Sounds so cool. Jaden's eyes lit up. He liked the word Neo as it was. I'm not in a club anyway. Since you're starting a new one, Hikaru, I'm in. Interesting. I'm in too. Chaz crossed his arms again, now calm down. Chaz, you have fusion monsters? Don't tell me you forgot about VWXYZ. You jerk. Then, me too? The others, seeing them join, wanted to join in the fun too. After all, it was just a club, a bit of fun outside of class. Since they were familiar with Hikaru, a club he founded wouldn't be as crazy as the current fusion club. That was a good thing. Good. Hikaru smiled. This was why he had come, to recruit new members. A club can't just be one person. With Jaden and the main cast joining, how could the new fusion club not thrive? Chapter 60, Take Down Zane Truesdale? Hikaru's gone crazy, he said he's going to start a new fusion club. What? What? A new fusion club? Did you hear? Hikaru actually applied to leave the fusion club. Oh my god, seriously? That Hikaru? Duel Academy was particularly lively today. The academy wasn't too big nor too small, essentially just a small island. Students ran into each other constantly, so word spread fast. Any exciting news would become known schoolwide in no time. Like the mansion on the lake or the Colosseum in the forest. These things became common knowledge within a couple of days, thanks to the students' tireless thirst for gossip. What's more, Hikaru was the first-year representative, who had just participated in a world-class exchange tournament and was considered a campus celebrity. On top of that, he was a notorious fusion extremist, so extreme even other extremists called him excessive, a true fusion fanatic. Someone like that leaving the fusion club and even creating a new one, with a name already decided, application submitted, and seemingly on the verge of getting an activity room, how could that not be shocking? So, are we still staying in the fusion club? What kind of cards does Hikaru have? First-year students, especially from RA Yellow and Slifer Red, didn't have much loyalty to the fusion club. Most of them joined because of the ancient gear deck. Ordinary students had a hard time obtaining rare cards, which was why the fusion club had grown so quickly, even earning its own purple uniform. But if Hikaru's new club could offer similar department-exclusive deck support, they might be ready to jump ship. After all, they were already fed up with bullying from upperclassmen and obelisk blue students in the fusion club. I heard Professor Growler also gave Hikaru his approval and said they could use ancient gear decks too, and that's originally Growler's deck, right? Hikaru's his student, of course, he'd support him more. That makes sense. In the disciplinary office, Leo Akaba crossed his arms, frowning with clear irritation. What's all that noise outside? Speak. Akaba's brows were tightly furrowed. Those who knew him understood this was one of his rare displays of anger. Any more delay, and he might take action. Professor, we heard. Amaji Hikaru left the fusion club. Akaba turned around, confused. What did you say? The RA Yellow third year, among others who had been addressed, jolted under Akaba's gaze and quickly bowed his head. Well. Hikaru. Amaji thought the current fusion club wasn't fused enough. The students weren't pure, always involved in nonsense, even bullying others. He was dissatisfied and decided to break away and form his own. He was horrified. Leo Akaba was a man of absolute authority and cold resolve. Anyone who displeased him would be utterly destroyed. Not only had Amaji Hikaru disobeyed him, he even dared to form his own faction. Wouldn't that earn his deepest ire? And as a senior of RA Yellow, to not notice Hikaru's plans and only now report to the professor, surely he was in for punishment. That's good news, Akaba muttered instinctively. Eh? The 3 third years all let out a sound of surprise. No, nothing, Akaba turned away. For some reason, he felt just a bit lighter. Just a little bit. Could it be that old fool Growler got scared? His mood improved slightly. In truth, his frustration wasn't actually caused by Hikaru or the commotion outside. It was Selena. Technically, she could be considered his daughter. She was currently a second-year student in Duel Academy's junior division. Once discovered by him, she was taken to his lab as a promising seedling to train her dueling abilities. Or rather, as the vessel for the revival of his true daughter. However, previously, that research lab, which had been studying parasites and spirits while carrying out his mission to duel Hikaru and obstruct Growler and the others, had encountered an unbelievable incident and completely lost contact. He had sent his soldiers to investigate, but there'd been no word since. Nonetheless, he didn't care what Selena had been through, he only needed to find her quickly. Initially, upon hearing Hikaru's name again, he had been furious and nearly considered dealing with the boy himself, but instead, he heard such wonderful news. To him, Fusion Club, Dimensional Club, or whatever name they used didn't matter. What he needed were absolutely loyal, controllable soldiers, cannon fodder who would further his grand vision. In contrast, people like Amaji Hikaru and those willing to follow him, the true fusion supremacists, were the toxic blood. If that group was willing to leave, that was actually a good thing. Which was why he instinctively said, "That's good news." Oof. He didn't know what had happened in Neo Domino City, but apparently, that old fool Growler still cared too much about his students' safety. In that sense, he was nothing like Akaba. Growler probably didn't want his student facing danger again, so he let him split off, huh? Ha 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 ha. Growler, in the end, I still win. It doesn't matter. Students are free to join whatever club they want, Akaba declared. The 3 third-year students stared at Akaba, dumbfounded, wondering if someone had impersonated him. The gloom Akaba felt over Selena's disappearance had eased slightly. But after pondering a moment, another idea struck him. He couldn't just pretend to be indifferent and let Hikaru do as he pleased. And wasn't this a perfect place to train and test soldiers? Still, who gets to decide which one is the real fusion club? Eh? You mean? You 3. Go destroy them. Us? The 3 looked at each other. Even the leader from Obelisk Blue protested, "That's impossible, Professor. They invited Zane Truesdale into the club. There's no way we can beat him." Take down Zane Truesdale? Would they win? No chance. Zane was the undisputed emperor of the third years, not some uncrowned champion, but the formerly crowned top duelist of the academy. The absolute strongest, they had all lost to him. And now they were supposed to go against him? Even setting Zane aside, Hikaru, Jaden Yuki, and Bastion Misawa were the top 3 duelists of the first years. Akaba's expression darkened as he stared at the 3. Did I not make myself clear? Yes, sir. The 3 stood at attention, terrified. I don't care if you go yourselves or recruit by the year. Get it done. Yes, sir. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.